Hi there, and welcome to part 6 of making some easy money on Fidelity. So by now you should be getting pretty comfortable and familiar with this upgrades downgrades screen on Fidelity. But now we have to start to strategize a little bit. And we're going to go back to where it all began in the beginning videos where we were talking about mutual funds and ETFs. So if we go back into our mutual fund screen, you should remember we can easily let's just go with Fidelity, high overall pick again with high returns and mediocre expenses. We'll kind of just keep it simple like we had it before because we've been digging in and finding out what companies are going to be going up, which ones are going to be going down. And remember, these are stocks, individual stocks. The mutual funds and the ETFs are a combination of companies. Now you can drill in and actually find the companies and I showed this before, of which ones that they are actually made up of. And if you really wanted to dig in and really do a lot of homework, you can do the same screening for each one of these companies individually. And that will also give you a great overview of how successful this mutual fund or an ETF is going to end up being. We still have our original list that we had before. So let's go ahead and go over to the columns again. And I want to go ahead and see exactly what's the absolute best fund that's been just rocking and rolling. And the Select Defense Aerospace portfolio. Let's see what's in this one. Scroll down, and as we can see, these are some pretty big manufacturers. GE Aerospace, Boeing. I mean, these are huge companies. Rolls-Royce. There's just a bunch here, and we want to again look at the percentages here. Now this one here is going $25. FSDAX. FSDAX. We'll go ahead and pop that back into our Yahoo screens. Again, just because the chart pulls up so easily. We're on a 3-month view here. Let's go to 6 months. And I could see why this one is on the top of the list here. You can see all the way back here in April, this guy was down here about $18. It's now up at 25. I like to even look back even farther and see what it's been doing year to date. And you can just keep backing it up. And overall, this thing's really been moving, just like we had seen before. Now, if you want to really drill in a little bit farther, I'd like to also show that you have the advanced chart with Yahoo Finance too, which really brings up a full screen chart and your entire watch list, which is kind of cool. And just by scrolling on your mouse, you really get a lot more of a time frame. There's always going to be certain key events that we were talking about with the news before that are going to make things really crush and go up and down and whatnot, big world events. So when you see major spikes, you always want to kind of evaluate and say, wait a minute, what really happened here? I believe this was probably more of a COVID time frame thing going on right here, but this fund has been moving up quite a bit. So the question is how long do you have to hold on to this to actually make a decent profit? And what is a decent profit? Well, I always like to say 10%, but it's going to be different for everybody and really what your investment goals are really all about. But the industry standard is usually what they would say 5%. That is, if you're up 5% on something and you end up selling it, that's a fantastic day. You should be happy and go home with that. Now, I don't have any objections to that, but 10% for me is kind of the golden rule. And again, with a mutual fund, it's going to move slower than ETFs. It's going to move slower than stocks. So your risk is much lower. If you have time on your side and you can hang on to something for 2 to 3 months, you should be able to make some pretty good gains. But let's take a look at one in action. So if we go back to Fidelity, we can filter to just see fund performance. And we can see we've got the FSELX right here. When you click on a fund or a stock, you're going to get 2 tabs over here. One's research and one is purchase history. It'll always pull up a little mini chart. If it's a fund or an ETF, you're going to see the holdings. And if it's a stock that you clicked on, you're actually going to see some like relevant recent news over here, which is nice and convenient. But you can flip through just like you can on Yahoo Finance, where you just got a little mini chart. where you can take a quick overview. But what's really useful is if you click purchase history right over here, you'll see that this purchase was made on June 27th, and just over 1,400 shares were purchased. Okay, and average cost basis was just over $35. So with a $50,000 investment on this purchase date of this average cost basis, which is just a fancy way of saying what you paid for it, for what your cost is, this is now currently at $43. So, or just under 42. Well, no, 43.28 right here. So what that really means is that the difference between 35 and 43 is 22%. And in this instance, it's a little over $11,000 on its way to 12,000. So the risk potential with a mutual fund is significantly lower, but because of that, they move much slower. But don't worry, it gets better, because remember, we always have our ETFs. So if we go back, click on our ETF screen back on news and research again. By default, it's going to take you to stocks because they kind of got it lumped together, but click on the ETFs tab. And without even filtering anything down, right on the top market movers, right at the very top here, we've got this is the past percentage change for the past 5 days. And just this top one is almost 8% PBW. I have no idea what this is. Invesco Winderhill Clean Energy. Oh, okay. Well, here we go. This is in a sector that is one of the energy sectors, something that people absolutely have to survive. So again, I've never even seen this one before. We got a little mini chart. We can go ahead and take a look at our time frame here. And this one is definitely moving. If we click research, we'll go in a little bit farther and we can take a look at the companies here. And okay, some solar companies, I've never heard of any of these ones before, but there's 64 companies that make this up here. And again, with Fidelity, we have our tabs with our ratings and analyst tabs we looked at before, but just like Yahoo, Fidelity has real advanced charts. You can really filter in and get a whole lot of information on this. Now, right here, a 6-month chart. This is wonderful. This is a great thing. This is exactly what we're looking for, and this is what we want to see. This tells me there's some security in this, and unless there is some major event that is going to make it bomb, you should be okay with this. This is going back quite a while. And again, this is an ETF. It's going to move a lot faster, a little bit more aggressively, and you're going to get greater gains throughout the day. Here's a 5-day chart here on this one. And just like the prices that we saw on the mutual fund, where we went from $35 to about 43, here we got this one was down here by 31, and it's up to 35, and that was on Friday. The 13th, I'm sorry, that was on Monday. So within 2 days, you saw kind of a swing like this with an ETF. You're still getting the wonderful safety and the distribution of all of the other companies and giving you less exposure to a single stock going up or down. Another cool thing about Fidelity is that if we go back to the main page where we found this to begin with, the PBW, this category here, top gainers for the 5 past days. There's some interesting options here too. You can do top gainers for the whole year, top losers, just for today's highs, the 90-day average. So you can really pull up some pretty comprehensive lists here. And then when you click view more, this is going to take you into kind of what we had with our mutual funds. And again, we'll just stick with Fidelity. We'll do all Fidelity ETFs, and we're going to have a much, much larger list here. And we can just do price change today, but you can go ahead and pull these up and find out and to see, is this meeting my price point? This one here is $224. We'll sort by price. Looks like that's one of the most expensive ones. Let's hit that again, and then you can go all the way down to 17. So shopping for a good priced ETF or mutual fund is just as important as finding a good stock that's not completely overpriced. Because you don't want to get something that's going to take forever to move 10%. And the smaller the amount here, the less money it has to move for you to see those percentage gains. The whole point of all of this is really getting down to the major question of swing trading versus day trading. And hopefully by now you could see that day trading really isn't worth it. You're going to end up stressing yourself out and spending way too much time in front of a computer screen just waiting to be in that perfect timing opportunity. If you can buy something, hang on to it for a week or two, and then you just go back in and then you can come back out, and with 10-15%, you're going to be in great shape. Now, I'll definitely talk about day trading and some of the dangers that go along with it, probably in the next video or the one after that. But to close this one off, I wanted to kind of go back to stocks because we've talked about the mutual funds and the ETFs. And of course, stocks are going to be the most volatile, but you get the greatest rewards. But finding the right price stock, like I said, is very important too. And in the world of day trading, most of the time, people are dealing with stuff that's less than $1. This one here in particular, this is a biopharmaceutical stock, drug company, and in one day, this has fluctuated between 67 cents, basically up to 74, so to speak. You got the day range right here, 66 to 76, and very small pennies mean big differences in gains, which means you could also get very big losses. And again, we'll just break this out to the 5-year mark. And this is kind of concerning for me because we've had basically what I like to call a flat line for a very long time. And this is something big's gonna have to happen for this to pop. So this one here, this is where we're talking about finding a better price point. I would say anything less than $3 is something you probably want to steer away from. Most people, to be on the safer side, would say $5. I think there are some good stocks and winners out there that are $3, as low as $3, but you got to be very cautious with all of it. Well, thanks for hanging in. We're going to go ahead and get into some goal setting and the dangers of emotions when doing all of this in the next video. And eventually, we're definitely going to get to the mechanics of how to use Fidelity to make trades and the different kinds of trades. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again. Catch you guys soon.